Police interactions with the mentally ill and the use of force used against them. It is inevitable that law enforcement personnel would end up dealing with the mad since they are first responders and as such interact with people from all walks of life. However, the criminal justice system is ill-equipped at handling these individuals due to the lack of training that officers have in interacting with them. This results in an overwhelming amount of persons with mental illnesses incarcerated and receiving an unnecessary level of force used against them. When it comes to the criminal justice system, those with mental illness are disproportionately represented at all stages. It is estimated that between 7% and 20% of police encounters involves persons with a mental illness. In each of these cases, the time spent on the call by police ranged from 30 minutes to 6.5 hours, and the average was 2.5 hours. 1/3 of these calls also were in regards to the threat of self-harm from the person or attempts by members of the public at causing the person harm. Since the 1980s, inmates with mental illnesses have been increasing steadily, and these numbers have become so perverse that now there are more individuals incarcerated than there are in mental health hospitals. This is a huge issue due to the fact that the criminal justice system is not equipped to provide the necessary mental health treatment and needs to people in these situations. As a result, the majority of people with mental illnesses do not receive proper care. This is especially so in regards to those who are deemed to have a severe mental illness, who are then put into secure units, such as supermax prisons or solitary confinement. They are put in these situations because they are deemed dangerous or difficult and at a risk of engaging in self-injurious behavior. So they are oftentimes also subjected to inmate management tools such as restraints for extended periods of time or tasers to subdue them. In a transcript from the National Public Radio, the incident involving Jasmine Ng, who has schizophrenia, is detailed in her encounter with police. One day Jasmine went out to look for a job. She decided to carry a small hammer around with her because she was afraid someone was trying to hurt her. She then walked into the Asian Pacific Family Center and asked to speak with her therapist, holding the hammer for all to see. Reports say that she would not give up her hammer and the clinic staff couldn't get her to speak to them. This resulted in the lobby being evacuated and police being called. Officers arrived on scene and 2 officers approached Jasmine, one with a taser and the other with a gun. The officers shouted to Jasmine to drop her weapon, but she did not comply. In the end, the officer with the taser shot Jasmine when she continually did not respond, which caused her to lunge at the officers and then get shot by the second officer, resulting in her death. Will Terrill, a former military police officer and a current criminal justice professor at Michigan State, also spoke during in the transcript, and he gave his own opinion on the incident and stated that this is a standard procedure by police, to shout out orders to the suspect and expect them to comply. He, however, states that this sort of move does not work with individuals who are in a mental health crisis. He said they might not even be hearing the commands, they might just be hearing loud, angry voices and getting scared. Sorts of incidents that frequently happen concerning mentally ill individuals getting shot by police officers, such as in the case with Jasmine Ng, can create the perception that the mentally ill are dangerous. The numbers are high as Los Angeles County, at least 1 in 10 police shootings over the past 5 years involved confrontations with police in a mental health crisis. However, in this particular incident, Jasmine was said to have been waiting calmly with the hammer in her lap and showed no violent tendencies nor reacted in any sort of violent manner until police arrived and began yelling at her. The police were the violent aggressors in this incident, which resulted in Jasmine's death, and they do not have proper training when it comes to handling situations that involve a person who is mentally ill. In the movie What's Eating Gilbert Grape, the main character, Gilbert's younger brother, Arnie, has a mental illness. All of the townspeople do not seem to know how to interact with Arnie, and the police are no different. Throughout the movie, Arnie attempts to climb the water tower in their town, and every time he does so, the police get involved. Gilbert is able to successfully coax his brother down from the tower each time, but the police threaten to take Arnie away from his family after each occurrence, concerned for Arnie's safety but unsure of how best to provide proper care for the boy. After one particular incident where Arnie climbs up the water tower, the police arrest him and take him to the police station and place him in the cell. In the situation that involved Arnie's arrest only caused undue stress on him and his family and accomplished nothing in the end, since Arnie is sent back home with his mother and siblings shortly after. This illustrates, however, that police do not have the necessary knowledge and training when it comes to handling the MAD, and because of this, not having any sort of basis or training to guide the police in how to react, resulted in a traumatic experience for both Arnie and the rest of his family. While in the movie, the officers have no real intention of bringing charges against Arnie, this is not always the case. In fact, in most situations, files are charged against the individual who is in a crisis state, or in a situation where they are unable to comprehend what is being asked of them by police. This is what causes the disproportionate number of the MAD being represented in the correctional system and other aspects of the justice system. Due to their reactions that are perceived as being irrational or crazy, and the fear that the law enforcement officers have because of a lack of training in said situations, there are high arrest rates when concerning those with mental illness. Rehinge is an online counter-movement group that is meant to provide support to those with mental illnesses and educate those without in order to push for global mental health reform. The main spokesperson for the group is Patton Blau, who has bipolar disorder and has had multiple encounters with law enforcement. While Blau deals with diffusing the stigma that surrounds mental illness in many different ways, one of the main ways he does this is by examining the justice system and how it deals with individuals with mental illnesses. Blau uses his own experiences from dealing with law enforcement to help teach officers on how to de-escalate encounters with those suffering from mental illness. Shortly, I'll show you a video from Blau on YouTube where he details what he does with police and how he helps train them in situations on best how to deal with people with mental illnesses. He talks about the Crisis Intervention Training Program, the goal for the CIT is to diffuse violence and the likelihood of violence breaking out between law enforcement officers and people with mental illnesses. It is also meant to train officers on how best to prevent escalation in these situations and provide them the skills to de-escalate an already resistant subject while ensuring their own personal safety and safety of the subject they encounter. By implementing these teachings in more law enforcement agencies at more frequent intervals, the number of these individuals being arrested and incarcerated will decrease, as well as the use of force will decrease. In conclusion, the lack of training for law enforcement officials in regards to how best to handle situations involving the MAD is a serious problem. It results in excessive use of force by officers and high rates of the mentally ill being incarcerated. More training is the best source of action to prevent further conflict involving the MAD.